This week's episode is brought to you by Balls of 10 Season 2, Bigger, Bolder, Badass, streaming now on YouTube at Post Hysteria, or just go to posthysteria.com and get caught up on this season of Balls of 10 Season 2.
That's so formal.
I know. What are you doing? Like, why are you holding numbers up?
He's like gang signing us.
And let the show begin.
Oh my gosh.
Indeed.
Well, okay. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
I'm wearing gray, so I'm not affiliated with any particular gang. But my name is Tony.
I'm Rochelle.
You're wearing black.
I am. I
Is
always
black
wear black.
Is the black a gang color?
I don't know, but this art is Warhol.
It's kind of dope.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of dope. Anyways, welcome to the short of it. This show is about loving short films. It's about loving short people and short filmmakers, not necessarily height-wise, but you know what I'm saying, content creators, and just the love of filmmaking as a whole. And so, yeah. How are you? You seem to have something in front of your microphone. I think you should actually address it right now.
This is my magic garlic. Our lovely guest today brought me and you. And
yes.
I think it primarily was. I think he really wanted to bring me something, but he felt bad not to bring you something too, and so that's why.
It's cute that you think that. You're adorable. You're just adorable. Why don't you introduce our guest?
We have with us today the great, the magnificent, the fabulous
Woo!
Robert Bob Harris.
Yes.
Faculty at Fitchburg State University.
You guys can clap.
And
we do have an audience.
Yeah, we have an
here.
audience.
You guys can
Yay,
clap.
Bob.
It's like, yeah.
And a storied filmmaker. How's
Yes.
that? And so, yeah, Bob, tell us a little bit about, how
Who
you
are
got
you,
into
Bob?
this mess.
I got into the mess by traveling. My family, my father's in the military, and I'm of the generation of feral children where good parents let children run free.
Yeah.
And I had good parents, and I ran very free. Yeah. And in second grade, we moved to Taiwan, lived outside Taipei. And I had a sister that's a year older than me, and the two of us ran free. I mean, and we were in awe of being in that place and being an outsider and being an observer and being in a place that very much presented itself with both placeness and culture. I think had a profound impact on me. I didn't know that I didn't sort of have an aha moment and realize I'm going to make films because of this. Nothing really about my upbringing or my internal observation of myself suggested that I would be an artist. It wasn't. I was not from an artistic family, particularly. And one meets individuals whose parents were, New York intellectuals and artists and all that, and they become artists. And I just that wasn't remotely my upbringing. From Taiwan, I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. From Albuquerque, New Mexico, I moved to southern Maryland, D.C. outside, southeast D.C. And generally, when you meet people from D.C., they're white. They're from northeast, and I was from southeast. But not D.C., Prince George's County, which is actually, speaking of race again, now I think the biggest African-American county in the United States. Not to say that I live in black communities, but it's tobacco country, and it was segregated. But more to the point, it was not high culture, elitist, New England or Northeast, it was blue collar and kind of tough, and so I lived there, and late in that, my father retired and moved to the Boston area, and I landed in Lexington. Up through high school, I was just a kind of normal, good student, unfocused boy, wannabe juvenile delinquent, wannabe.
What did that look like? Because I cannot picture that at all. Are we talking
It's
about
kind of
like,
soft core. If you
okay,
want,
so like stealing candy from the store.
well, egging lawn jobs,
Oh, okay.
blowing up mailboxes. It's kind of soft core. It's not.
Yes.
It's not. But
We have a theme today.
but sort of weak, tepid rebellion.
Okay.
Rich and I had young Harvard teachers in high school, and I started mouthing off about poetry, and I also Warhol was around, and although I disdain my current status is I'm ambivalent. I'm ambivalent / negative on Warhol in general. But at the time, he was also in the prey, and drugs, LSD, Andy Warhol, Bob Dylan, Vietnam, civil rights, and Summer of Love, hippie. All these things kind of gravitated around, and I'm in high school, and I think I mouthed off about Warhol or something, and this teacher said, "Oh, you ought to go down and see these movies." And in Boston, in the mid-'60s, well, in 1967, which is the year we're talking about, in 1967, there was a really good rock club in an old synagogue, and that rock club was called the Boston Tea Party. And the Boston Tea Party had major bands. Everybody played the Boston Tea Party, and it was a really intimate venue without, and you could be quite close to bands, and I saw a lot of good music there. But midweek, because there was a link between some of the hippie people from Boston, to wit, for those who would follow all this, the people who were behind, it's Mel Lyman. Mel Lyman, who had affiliation with the Jim Question Jug Band, but Mel Lyman, and I'm blanking, the Avatar, the Boston, they had a community, they had a commune on something hill. It's near where Mass Art is, I think. Or it's in Roxbury. They had a commune there. It was led by Mel Lyman. This is probably not, I have so many detours that I should go on.
I love detours. No, it's so good.
Let's cut to the quick. They had an affiliation with some of the Warhol people, and through that they started showing, and Jonas Mekas, they started showing so-called underground films on like Wednesday nights at the Boston Tea Party. Oh. And I went down to one of those. And sidebar, prior to that, I was interested in films. And European films Antonioni films were being, in Boston, you could see, playing in theaters regularly would be the latest Fellini movie, the latest Antonioni movie, the North Street Cinema, which was across from the old Boston Garden, used to show Buñuel. I saw Belle de Jour and all this in high school. And these were all, I was really interested in them, but then, and I didn't really know that there was this other kind of film. Or I knew there was, but I hadn't seen it.
Right.
Mm.
And this guy says, go down there, and I went down there, and I saw these films by Bruce Bailey. And really those films by Bruce Bailey, kind of seeing those films, at least in terms of where I land now and what we're talking about today, going to see Bruce Bailey films set me off. I took it in, I was interested in politics, I was interested in poetry, and I was interested in Eastern thought, and I was interested in film. And I didn't go to film school, and I landed in a school where they wouldn't even let me. They wouldn't even let me do photo. It was a liberal arts, a small liberal arts school, and I couldn't find anybody even to do in a special in the January program where you just did one thing for that month. So I was self-taught. Self-taught, and all these factors were equally affected on me. And what the school that I went to was good for was philosophy and religion. So the point here is that, and I think the point continues to be a takeaway, a summary of who I am. I'm also a filmmaker, and I fell in love with film, and I started filming all the time, but all these things were equally in my mind. So it became fundamental to me that, and I'm given to reflection, and I'm given to self-analysis, and like it or not, even it's like this is a time of amorality, free love, drugs, blow up mailboxes. So the tension of liberation, absolute liberation and morality or ethics. So that all these things became so fundamental to whatever I was going to do, be a filmmaker or be a monk or be.
Was that actually an option?
I once did.
Hold on, I got to stop you right now.
And fundamentally, yes. And
Really?
I'm still, no, not to put on a robe and
Okay.
not to join a particular sect, but I've always wanted to do it my own way. And
Okay.
it's going to be that way about filmmaking.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, and it's
that's
going to be
Bob.
that way about whatever I do. And
Yeah.
it's like, I have very rigorous standards that I have to meet for myself. I have to
Okay.
constantly justify whatever I do, and I'm saying this with a straight face, but it's like, is that all right?
We should all be
And-
like that.
Yeah.
And the monkishness was, I was a vagabond. I mean, I want to drift. I want to be free. I'm going to go wherever I want to. And really, the subset of that is, we're skipping around here, but ended up going to, because friends went mountain climbing. They took me to the mountains, and then I was like, oh, and so I was like, another mind-blowing thing was just spending time in the high, and I'm talking real mountains.
Wow.
In the West.
In the West.
Yes.
Although,
there-
the Adirondacks aren't so bad.
Well, yeah.
But yes, in the West, first the Wind Rivers in Wyoming,
Yeah.
and then in the Pacific, and the volcanoes in Oregon, and then I went to South America.
Oh, nice.
The Andes in South America.
I want to get to, and I, just full disclosure, I am just absolutely fascinated with you, Bob. That it's been a privilege to be instructed by you, and even my dad loves Bob. Of
course.
I loved your dad.
Bob.
I was going to ask about your dad. He was cool.
You did. But I want to get back to the beats part of it because, as you're describing all these different places and spaces, there's a different kind of beats that you really got fascinated with in New York. And I don't want to give away your story, but I think that people, because you have a treasure chest. That's not easy.
You can say
chest?
treasure trove, which might
Treasure
roll-
trove.
Oh, you can't do that either.
No,
Let me speak.
Okay, thank
Treasure
you.
trove.
of a film from what is it, early 80s?
Early 80s.
Yeah.
I would ask your forgiveness, but I'm going to have to say what I'm going to have to say anyway, because
Okay.
I'm only going to be as honest as I can be. Yes, I do. I have a wonderful treasure trove, and the material I shot was the first film materials collected in the soon someday to be opened Hip Hop Museum in the Hip Hop Museum, formerly known as the Universal Hip Hop Museum, but somebody that got into copyright problems. So now it's the Hip Hop Museum opening in the South Bronx.
Where hip hop was born.
Where hip hop was born.
In case our audience didn't know that.
And so I donated the materials to the museum, and they've been, we'll skip where things are at with that now, which I don't even know. But it was happenstance. I was not a hip-hop aficionado. At that point in my life, and I'm passionate about music, and I take music really seriously,
Yes,
and I
you
listen
do.
to a lot of kinds of music. At that time, I was listening to a lot of reggae. I was deeply into reggae, and I was really enriching my education around jazz. At that time, I'd given rock and roll bored me. R&B has always been, but R&B was evolving. R&B wasn't. I mean, rappers don't sing. I like cats who can sing.
Yeah.
And I liked Anyway, we'll skip. It's not like I was like, oh
Sought
damn,
out to
I'm
do it,
gonna
yeah.
go. And the parts of my life many parts that we're skipping, I was a curator. All the things where the thread would go, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not a filmmaker, even though I'm going along and I am shooting film all this time, but I was a curator. Happenstance had landed me and into a circumstance that involved me being kind of a significant curator in the downtown New York scene. I curated video for Anthology Film Archives. I curated video for PS1 in Queens, which is now PS1 MoMA, but it had not been taken up by MoMA at the time. It was they were called alternate spaces. It was an alternate space, and I was a freelance curator in other places. So I was programming a lot of video stuff, and so that made me visible to someone who was looking for something. Mm-hmm. And the someone looking for something were some academics at City College, Bronx. There's a part, I think it's the City Colleges of New York, and they have a nice campus up on the hill overlooking. And there are two sociologists who had gotten National Science Foundation money to do something about youth in the inner city, I guess. Mm-hmm. And they set about to make a film, and they set about, and they had no clue what to do.
Yeah.
And they shot some stuff, and it's pretty awful. I also have that stuff, and I tried to give that to the I will give it to the museum, but when we were doing all the contract around giving the material, it was like, well, that's not yours, so let's just leave that out, and we'll back around. What it was is some good interviews, and some footage of significant, very early graffiti artists. But so they were looking for someone to make a video, and never being one to turn my back on the nepotism possibility, I was living with a woman to whom I was later married, and with whom I have two children, with whom I was later divorced. I suggested, well, I know somebody. It's this Ri Kanzaki, this Japanese woman. How about, she'll, and they were okay with that. So basically, formally the contract went to Ri, and Ri was the generator of this project, but I shot the whole thing. And so Ri was 5'3" and Japanese, but Japanese American. She's Japanese Hawaiian, so she spoke no Japanese. So she, in other words, she had all the cultural edginess of an American, but she looked like an Asian, and she was petite, relatively.
Just like you,
so she was not
Michelle.
white,
Yeah.
and she's bold, and so she started. How do you meet graffiti? And the project was graffiti. It was not hip. It was not. Well, but graffiti is hip hop.
It is.
Hip hop is, for those of you who don't know, hip hop is graffiti, breakdancing, and rapping.
Yes.
Those are the three pillars
Yes.
of what hip hop art is, and they're equal.
Yes.
Even though rap has gotten much more prominence, I was always most interested in the dance. I thought the dance was the
Yeah.
shit.
I used to be a breakdancer.
I know you did. and I looked at your moves. So Ree said about there. If you wanted to find graffiti artists, they all hung out. There was a writer's bench. There's a particular place in the subway where everybody, and it was teenage boys, Latino and black boys, and I wasn't invited there, but she was able to insinuate it. She was able to approach them and go all Ree with them, and she earned, she got close to a bunch and so we went through and met up with a bunch and started filming graffiti and went into the subways. We went in the tunnels and did cars in the middle of the night. We got without permission,
Right.
and we got permission from the train people and shot in the yards, and we shot trains going by, and we talked to a bunch of different kids who did graffiti, just for people who like to drop names, and I like to diss big names. Keith Haring wanted to be. He was a young SVA kid who was kind of obnoxious, and he's like, can you ask that girl if I can be in the movie? And we go, nah, we don't.
That's awesome.
He's a white art school kid. Come on, that's not what we're doing.
Right.
And the movie's called Forbidden Rebels.
It seems like every time I'm getting chased, like every step I take, I'm always like, oh, I can't take this anymore. This is the last time. I'm gonna quit. Blah blah blah. Like yesterday, I was running out the tunnel, boy, and I ran right into a city light and fell down on the tracks, and I busted my ass. And then I ran and I tried to jump on the train and I couldn't. And every step I was taking, I was just like, damn, I gotta quit. But when I was like on the train, like home free, I was just like, nah, you can't quit. My parents look the other way, but they don't really approve. Your parents feel real responsible for you, so they get real involved. So that's real upsetting, but there's nothing you can do about it, I guess.
So we made the video, and again, Ree is tight with all these. Ree is sort of embedded in particularly in the graffiti aspect of the hip hop scene. And one of the guys she met, who isn't in the final cut of Forbidden Rebels, was this guy named Bear, and Bear was a kind of a community leader. Bear 167. Because he lived on 106, or he was from the neighborhood, 167th Street, and he called up one. I don't know what short word we had, but maybe it was the night before, maybe it was the day before. But he said, we're throwing this jam tomorrow morning. You ought to come up and shoot it. And he had put together the whole thing together because he was Bear and we were with him. We were welcome in this scene that was happening. They blocked off the street. The way you do a street rap is you tap into the electricity that's on the street. They knew how to open up the panels and clamp in and pull power from those things. And they set up turntables. and we got there pretty early, and we shot all setting up and et cetera, and then came a parade of rappers and I'd say break dancers, but they're more poppers.
Pop and locking.
Yeah. Although their one guy did come out and do a head spin on the asphalt without
my guy.
Yeah. no cardboard, no
Wow.
no dance hall floor. He did a head spin.
Never could
on
do
asphalt.
Wow.
And he was at the show when I showed in last summer.
Yeah.
He was there, and I was like, I recognized him, and he's
Wow.
still really fit. He
That's
was
awesome.
fit then, and he's still like.
Yeah.
So that's how that came to be.
I'm really fascinated with your love of documentary, and I am I was a documentary producer before Rochelle made me do something, and you did.
Did not make
You
I
did.
did not.
You said do it,
I
did.
said, do you want to?
No, it was a little harsher than that.
It was not.
But I appreciate it. But anyways, getting back to Bob.
Back to Bob.
Yeah, you can have your little.
We do.
Take a break. have a little
We
tea.
just, I'm still fascinated with the garlic on the table, but there's the art of captivating true life and true experience, but there's this other life that I've grown to love now because of Rochelle, and that is being able to tell stories that have some basis in truth, or not, like Kyle likes to do horror films. But, it's about the storytelling process. And so if you could just kind of like talk a little bit about that, because I think, unfortunately, not everyone gets the storytelling part, particularly with like documentaries.
Have you ever seen any of my documentaries?
Did you show any in class?
Meaning the answer is kind of no.
Probably not.
So is the question landed?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Take it, Bob. Take it away.
After
So, Bob, I don't tell stories. There is no story.
May I apologize once again for the heresy. I don't believe it's all about story. I don't give a shit about story. I like mood. I do give a shit about story, and I love watching your stories. I cried at the Bear last night. I watch stories, and I appreciate. For a long time, I didn't. For my 20, when I was a hardcore avant-gardist, I disdained all narrative films. They were all just junk. They were just all pandering. They all had the same. They just all like suck. Take you. Feel this now. Feel this.
Yeah.
But now I've grown up. We change. I'm not that interested in story, and I'm suspect of story, especially in a documentary, because life doesn't really have arcs. It has arcs, but it doesn't have a 3-act structure, and you can't really, you can't really fit it into an hour and a half. Life just rumbles on, and I think that's wonderful and fascinating, and that's enough. I think one with film, among other media, but with pictures and sound and time, you can evoke worlds, and you can invoke character, and you can invoke space, placeness, and so mood. What I'm interested in is mood and place and light and movement, and I'm interested in within mood and place there is history, there is culture. I just don't need there to be a story. And again, I don't have a problem with anybody else making it. In fact, I'm glad that people do, because I consume them and I watch them. But I don't really even know. I've never made a story movie. I've never made a film that I could say. I had made a little list. Per se has a story. The Forbidden Rebels is just it's interviews with kids and clips of them going about doing their thing. I made a film. Maybe the closest thing I said. I made a film about cowboys in which again, how'd it go? It's like I hadn't done I hadn't attempted to make anything like a documentary until I went and lived with these native peoples, and that was like mind-blowing, and it was much bigger than the film. And I even kind of came away not hating, but just I couldn't point a camera at people. The whole notion of filming people from whom I was separate and with whom I was fascinated, and if I can confess to a sort of colonial, creepy colonial white male problems, I was in love with one of the women, and I flirted with her constantly and courted her in a certain way, and deluded myself that was real. There's like, no, I could move here and Emelina.
Emelina.
And she was gorgeous. The first time I was there climbing, she was there with a baby, and she kind of was real interested in us, and she would just keep showing up. And I had this regular 8 camera, and I'd filming journal diary stuff. And then it's like, so I left South America the first time thinking, oh, Emelina. And then I went back, and sort of like the first thing I do is, okay, so where's Emelina? And there she was. And she showed up, and she kind of got it too. And then she was kind of there the whole time. And so we had a kind of a, but again, I mean, and I nothing I can do. I did it. It happened. Do I think it's problematic now? Does that get into the whole notion? Now we're digressing away from story, but the whole. This is a sidebar off. I went and made a movie about cowboys in Wyoming. So prior to this, I'm making a movie about native peoples in South America, and the notion of filming other people's lives, the notion of I'm going to make a film about you, and what right do I have to interpret you at all? And what right do I have to, what's my role in filming you and then making my movie about you?
It's problematic, right? Like,
except for I'm awesome.
Oh, well, you are awesome, but there is this
awesome
kind of
we can work on it.
spectatorial, or scopophilic kind of thing where I have always felt that way about documentary.
She's using SAT words.
I think that's why I like personal docs, because you're just pointing the camera at yourself and you're telling what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. But what I wonder is, like, what drives your choices if you're not making a story? Like, is it what it looks like? Is it what's happening? Is it...
With the native peoples, it was like documenting a way of life and recording, weaving the practices. Like they were, well, one, the landscape is just fucking gorgeous, and it's beautiful, and the weather, it's just spectacular, and the people are strong and focused, and they're not struggling. It's not like poor people. They're poor as shit, but it's the best. What's the practice? Dietary practice, where you only eat local and vegetarian and local. Microbiotic.
Yeah.
It's like sort of everything I ate was picked today or yesterday from within a few hundred meters, a mile or two, because it's around there, or maybe from up the mountain. The potatoes come down from there, but.
So do you feel like you were documenting your experience of this?
But, you know, and the film has never been made, and and now that I've actually made a little bit of money by being a professor, I've been digitizing it, and I really want to cut it. I want to put something out, but and I'm realizing it's about us looking at each other. Yeah. It's as much about the way they're looking back at me as me looking at them, and so I have to try. And it's about what's going on. I mean, you can see how they had a trapiche, a handmade wooden trapiche, and a trapiche is a device for with 3 drums and that are and an armature that a mule goes around in circles and turns these 3 drums, and you put a piece of cane. You pick cane. And I also worked with these people, and I hauled cane, and I picked coffee, and did some of it, and ridiculous, like 70-degree, they're not really 70, but 40, just steep slopes with heavy weight, and I worked my, but I was young and getting fitter every day by doing that. And the cane is squeezed and the juice comes dripping out and it fills this pan, and the kid's over there playing with a big knife, and this like a 3-year-old's got a knife and going nark, nark, and the dog's walking around, and over there into the shed there's a big fire with a pot that's bigger than this kind of a big sort of like a lens, a big disc pot, and the cane juice is going in there, and the fire's heating, the smoke's coming off the cane juice, and you stirring it, and then you lift out the impurity. You lift out the grit and throwing the grit off, and cooking cane juice down to panela. I don't know if you guys ever had panela, but panela is block sugar.
Yep.
And if you cook it enough, it gets creamier and creamier, and then so they're like the creamy panela is like the shit. But all the panela is good. But I've never seen creamy panela in the stores, but they would make it. So all the different processes, harvesting, carrying, cooking, and then just wonderful weaving. The women make bags. I don't wear those bags, but the reason I wear a bag all the time is from that culture. Colombians if you know Colombians, and the Colombians are always wearing this bag, it's an Arhuaco bag, and they're made by this culture, and there's the women constantly. I was looking for the word. It's not weave. It's
Stitch?
It's not embroider, but it's
Crochet?
It's almost like it's a knot series. It's not. They don't use sticks, but they and it's the umbilical. It's everything is in their life has. I don't want to say religious because we give some context to religious, but it has its core existential significance, and making this bag it's what a woman does, because women make things in their guts or wherever that is, and
Uterus, I believe it's called.
and so the women make and the men weave, and so as I filmed weaving and bag making and making the gasa, the strap, and so and picking coffee and cleaning coffee, and so I documented. So it's documenting a life. I was going off so often. National Geographic, for example, will anthropomorphize anything.
Yes.
The spider gets up, and the spider's mommy
Yes.
is fixing their milk,
Yes.
But spiders are really interesting. And so the world I love I'm a flaneur, a voyeur. And back, I had another notion around filmmaking, and nobody knows. I'm hardly known as a filmmaker. I mean, you guys respect me as a filmmaker, but I've made a ton of films, but not a ton. I've made a handful of films.
What's the difference between a ton and a handful?
But I've been filming like almost every day or regularly for 50 years, more.
Yeah.
I do it because it fulfills me because it engages me, because I can't, and I occasionally make things that give me satisfaction. But in a way, filming is an excuse for, well, it was an excuse. I wouldn't have lived with those people for a year and had that experience of, oh, well, I'm making a film.
Yeah.
That's why I get to be here.
Yeah.
And then so, okay, we like you. You can make your film. But and also kind of in a capitalist society where you need to be doing something. You can't just be, like my dad would say, you got to make some contribution to society. And it's like, okay. And filmmaking, I pretend to make films to justify it, but I would be, it really, back to, did I ever go to the monastery? Back to bring the question around. The monastery would be just, well, I'm just going to live. I'm just going to live and see, I'm going to grow, and I'm going to process, and I'm going to become wiser and wiser and wiser, but I don't have to prove it to you. I don't have to prove it to you. I don't have to pray to this God. I'm going to do it. I'm going to answer to my own. I moved all the time, and you go to a new school and you're the weird kid, and sort of like the easiest way to, well, not easiest, but it just made sense to make make your own rules and live by those rules, and that's good. And I've kept it that, and I've tried. Back to documentaries. Yes, you can make. I think, and there people do to varying degrees, but there are some people who make lovely observational work that doesn't have character and doesn't have story arc.
Yeah, yeah.
We digressed off the Cowboys, but you wanted to
We
ask another
did.
question?
Do we get to talk about you retiring?
It's kind of boring, but if you want to.
It's not boring.
Okay.
I mean, I've only known you for a few years.
Is there going to be a question, or is there how?
There is
my
a question.
My sorrow. Okay.
Yeah. What are you going to miss? Are you going to miss the students?
I'm going to miss a few faculty.
As he looks at
I am not a cheerleader for anybody. I don't join. I'm not a joiner. I will not wear a uniform for anybody.
Yep.
But I'm emotional, and I care about people primarily. It's almost it's less embarrassing than saying that Dylan helped form me, but that I'm so grateful that fate landed me at Fitchburg, because I was denied tenure. I got a job at Ithaca College. Ithaca seemed like a great place, but then the school was. I mean, the best thing about that place was the students, and the most interesting thing about those students were the international students. But they were richer and more, and they were privileged. I mean, all of them, and they all wanted to do. Majority of them wanted to do television, and I was more of a novice. I was old, but I don't know my South American thing was through. I was last there at the age of 27, and then so I did college. I did I taught at a school for dropouts in White Plains. In all of Westchester County, if you didn't fit in, you could go to Educate. It was it was started by a boxing coach, and I taught photo, and the photo was in the boxing ring, and I got creds because it's some tough kid I said I could wrestle because I used to wrestle, and I pinned this kid in like 30 seconds, and they all went, "Damn, Harris!" And they called it New York Bob. It was like he made a mistake, and I knew how to exploit it, and then we let it go at that. We didn't have to do best out of 30 or something. We got one and out. So I did that for 2 years, but then I saved up my money, and then I went to be a traveling bum, and which took me to the mountains, which took me to South America, and then I came back and landed in New York City with no money. And we'll skip all that segment, but I I was in New York City from the age of 24 and I left there to go to grad school because I'd been a curator. I was making films. We did the hip hop thing, and the cowboy thing. But the art world was paying me nothing, and except prestige, and I figured, well, the only way to really live a life, especially I was like getting serious with Ree, and we're talking about having kids. And you got to teach. And then it was like, oh, you got to have an MFA. No, you got to have a degree. Because I'd apply for jobs and they'd talk to me and I wouldn't get hired and go, oh, you're supposed to have an MFA. And long story short, somebody said, because I was going to go to NYU and get some MA. And then a helpful person said, no, you got to have an MFA and you ought to go to San Diego because it's a really good program. And so I did, and I made more money as a grad student than I made as an important curator in the downtown art scene in the mid-'80s. So I went to California and had babies and then landed the Ithaca job, did 9 years there, and was denied tenure, and my marriage fell apart. And I went looking for a job, and I was, this is what, in 1999, and it was like, I'm white and straight and male and in the arts, and it's like,
how dare you?
Am I even going to get a job? And Fitchburg was retro enough. I've never told it this way, but Fitchburg was retro enough that I was like, whew, I got in under the wire before that happened. That's three. And I landed at Fitchburg, and Fitchburg's like funky place, and then they're making these crazy horror films, and it was all punked out, and students lived in these like trashed out like houses across the street, and I started making work and showing and I sort of like, because I was single and alone, and so I could just go into Boston all the time. I was close enough to Boston, so and I grew up with Fitchburg was just cool and interesting student after, and just waves of just really interesting people came through that weren't privileged and weren't, not to say that it would have been fun to keep working with British, but there's something really good about, and the department, it was Gunther and me and Charlie and what's her name who retired, and what's his name? So people would drop away, and we hired Zach adjuncted and then got hired, and maybe when Gunther, I forget the sequence, but then we hired Mary, and then we hired Kevin, and then we hired Rochelle, and it's sort of like just all, it was interesting, and it just got, and the students made it. But cutting to the quick, what I'm going to miss is like hanging out with, maybe not him, but
you can
the
say
various
me.
people.
You can say I was your favorite student. It's okay. I won't tell anyone.
Not just him, but just it's the students who are really invested, and some of whom even aren't that tight with me, but I know they're out there, and I can watch what they're doing, because they're all hanging out with Rochelle and not me. I'm jealous, but it's all like that's, and watching like the evolution of youth through that period, and the rise in queerness, the rise in and autism and pandemic and transgenders, like, it's like you can't you can't get that, to be immersed in that and to be
now
real,
AI.
Well, that's the reasonable split. I don't want to work with robots. I really don't want to work with robots. And so, honestly, I don't really care that I teach. I don't really care about teaching somebody how to make a film. I don't really, I think it's good. I care about the content, but that wouldn't keep me. Oh, there's going to be 20 more people who I can teach how a camera works, or there's going to be 20 more people that I can show 17 to and watch their minds change. I mean, but it is about it's about the engagement with people and how, as Robert Crumb used to say, minds were made to be blown, and I've liked being in the business of with people's minds.
Oh, Bob, I can listen to you talk for hours, and I have in classes. It's just you have an extraordinary path, and maybe this isn't the last time we have Bob on.
No, we should have Bob on.
We should a lot.
Yeah.
He'll have
I
time.
can babble at great length, and I'm full of stories.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
It was.
I can listen to Bob all day. I want to go find Emelina.
She's still alive.
Is she?
She's still alive.
Told you.
Wait.
Do you have a picture? This is amazing.
I don't have a young picture.
I am trying to do the clothes.
I have lots of young pictures. But
I'm trying.
It's okay. It's great. No, the credits
I think-
can totally roll.
They can. We're just,
roll credits.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's kind of shot over her shoulder. But
I don't know what's happening anymore.
Kyle wants to see your shoulder. What
Thank
do you mean?
you for joining us
Yeah.
again on
Yeah.
The Short of It.
Woohoo. Shorts for short people.
The Short of It is brought to you by the Den Beauty Lounge. Visit thedenbeautylounge.glossgenius.com for more information and book your appointment today.